Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to deliver an online lesson with Salamanca House. Now, just about all the lessons that you deliver with us can be broken down into two phases. They can be divided into a presentation phase, which is going to consist in you presenting information via an online whiteboard, which I'll talk about in a minute, and through what we call the skeletons. So skeletons are whiteboard presentations that we've already pre-prepared for you, which you will need to fill in with your pupils. And these will always follow a practice phase, which basically involves a PowerPoint presentation made of what we call cognitive drills. Okay, so these keep the pupil talking pretty much continually during the class. Really what I want to deal with today is the online whiteboard presentation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the website, click on Salamanca House. If you Google Salamanca House, that will take you to the website. And if we just scroll down, the tab that you're interested in is the Tutor Zone. So as a tutor, you will click on this and you will teach your class through this Tutor Zone. Okay, you will be given a password and a login address. And you'll enter that and you'll see that the entire foundation course, which takes pupils from absolute beginner to round about the Delhi A2 B1 stage, is divided into three stages. That's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Each of those stages consists of roughly 75 units. So if we look at stage 1, for example, you'll see that that's divided into 5 blocks. That's block A through to block E. And each block has about 15 units. And as a tutor, we expect you to work through roughly 2 units per lesson. So stage 1 should take you round about 35 lessons, something like that, depending on the pupil. You may go a little bit faster, you may go a little bit slower, but round about 35 lessons. And what we're going to do now is just have a look at one sample lesson so that you can get an idea of how to present information in the presentation phase, and then practice what you've presented in the drill phase. Yeah. So we'll have a look at Block A, Unit 3 as an example. Each unit in the entire course comes with a lesson plan, and we just ask you to follow that lesson plan. There's simple instructions which tells you what to do. You need to spend 5-10 minutes just reading through that and see how it links in with the skeletons and the drills that you'd be expected to carry out with pupils. So for example, the first thing then is the presentation. Nearly always there's a presentation phase to start with. And if you look to the right here, it says skeleton 1 and then the button skeleton. So what you've got to do in this phase is you've got to download the skeleton onto your laptop. You will not be using a mobile phone to teach, you will be using a laptop. And so what we're going to do is we're going to download this particular skeleton for this unit, which is an introduction to AR verbs and the conjugation of AR verbs. And so what we're going to do is put the cursor over the button and we right click, and then we're going to save link as. Now in Spanish that would be translated as guardar enlace como. So you then left click on that, guardar enlace como, save link as. Now I've already created a folder on my desktop called Skeleton for Video Demo. So I've already created that folder and I'm just going to save that skeleton in that folder. And in it, you'll see that it's a PNG file, a PNG file. And we'll just type and we'll just click save. And quite unusual, in fact, in this particular unit is that there are 2 skeletons. So I'm going to save the other skeleton as well. Save link as, and there we go. And so those 2 skeletons are saved on my desktop. Let's go and have a look at those now. And so before you start the lesson, you need to make sure that those skeletons are open. All right, you don't want to be messing around with those during the lesson. So this would be the first thing you'll do. You would have downloaded the skeletons first of all. Make sure they're in your folder. Now these are actually automatically designed to open in Paint. So I click on that, they will open automatically. There you go, and there's the document opened in Paint. But what might be the case is on your laptop, for example, and probably the case, is that these will download into what you call the window viewer. Okay, so let's just change that. Okay, so here's what will probably happen is that they will download as the window viewer. And so what you do in this case is you click on the document. I'm going to click on the first skeleton, which is this one. Okay. And the first thing I've got to do, I can't do anything at the moment in the window viewer. I need to open it in Paint. So you must always make sure that you're working with your documents, with the skeletons in Microsoft Paint. So let's do that now, open, and now open in Paint, and there we have it, right? So the skeleton is now open. Now I'm just going to point out a couple of important things about this skeleton. Okay, so I'm going to click on the magnifying tool. There you are, you can see the whole thing there. Okay, in this particular case, which is skeleton 1, there are 3 sort of phases to skeleton 1, and the entire skeleton is normally divided into 4 quadrants. All right, so I'll just show you those 4 quadrants now. And as you're presenting the information, you will work through the quadrants always in the same order. So this will be the first quadrant, which will be called skeleton. Now in your lesson plan, it's written as this, skeleton 1. So the entire thing refers to skeleton 1, and this part is skeleton 1A. This bit here, the next part of the skeleton you present will be this one, and it's always in the same order. That's skeleton 1B. So whichever unit you're using, the skeleton always goes in this order. So it's this quadrant first, then the next quadrant is the one below it, skeleton 1B, and then in this case skeleton 1C. In this case there is no skeleton 1D. Okay, and so if you quickly go through, if we go back to the teacher plan, you'll see these, we make reference to these skeletons here. So in step 1 we've got skeleton 1A, and then what you do with skeleton 1B, and then what you do with skeleton 1C. So you need to read the instructions for each of those steps. And what we expect you to do is to go through these with the pupils. Now, at the same time as you have these skeletons presented on the laptop screen, your pupil will also have a copy of these skeletons in their workbooks. So every time a pupil signs up for the foundation course, for each stage of the foundation course, they will get a set of workbooks. So for example, for stage 1, they will have the complete set of blocks A to block E. All right, and in block A, this exact skeleton will be present for them. And while you're filling in the information in the skeleton, they will also fill in the information in their workbooks. Now then, as you're working through those steps in the lesson, you don't want the pupils to be viewing, for example, skeleton 1B and skeleton 1C at the same time as you're trying to present skeleton 1A. So you just want them to see skeleton 1A. So all you need to do is you just click on the magnifying glass, and that gives you skeleton 1A. Right? So that's all they can see. By the way, I should have pointed out, obviously, that you will be sharing your screen. So this is what you see here will be shared with your pupil. So the pupil will see this screen presentation before them. Now, ideally, what you want when you're filling in this skeleton is something called a tablet pen. They are relatively cheap and really well worth obtaining if you can get one. I purchased mine for something like about £12. That's about $15 a couple of years ago, and it's well worth getting one if you can get hold of one. And they really help to make the lesson interesting, and we would really like you to use one if that's possible. So, basically what you're going to do is you're going to use that tablet pen to fill in the information. So a verb, in this case, is a word that describes an action, or a state. So this is a very quick presentation, really. So, and then you go on and you talk about the different parts of the verb. For example, taking hablar, which translates into talk, and explaining that. And this is all in the lesson plan. The word to in English, to talk, does the same job as the verb ending ar in hablar, and then you'll explain, well, this is the stem, and this is called the ending. All right. Now then, if you do not have a tablet pen at the moment, then you can still get around it by using the keyboard. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's just go back and make sure you're clear about what you can do here. All right. And you need to practice this. So I'm just going to remove that information, and we're just going to do the same thing using the keyboard. So I'm going to click on Home in Paint, and you can see the options coming up there. And what I want to do is I'm going to click here on the letter A, and that enables me to type on the screen. And that's what you can do if you don't have a tablet pen. But like I said before, we really want you to try and get hold of one, because it just adds a little bit more to the lesson. So I'm going to click on the A first of all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to position that cursor, you can see the cursor here, more or less there just above the bar there where you need to type. So I'll click it there. And the first thing I've got to do is I've got to make sure that it's the right type size. So you should be doing this really before the lesson starts. Okay, that suggests there it's probably a little bit too big. So I'm going to reduce it from 36 text to about 26. Okay, so we've done that now. Reduce it to 26. And also, I would suggest as well that you use, rather than Calibri, because it just looks a kind of nicer text. This is what I like here. I can scan down here, and I like this Segoi print here. That's very clear, and it makes it look like kind of, it's been written, by hand. Yeah, so we've done that. Let's just see how that comes out a minute. So a verb is a word that describes an action. If you want to highlight that, change the text color to blue there so the pupil can see clearly. And that looks really nice. And that can easily compensate for not having the tablet pen. All right. So we've got the action, an action. And then I'm just going to do the same thing here. And what you need to do is you need to practice this, just positioning the cursor, or there you go. I just need to move that up a little bit. I've not quite got the cursor position right, or a state. All right. And then you come down here again. Let's position the cursor down here. So we have the stem and the ending. And while you're doing that, the pupil, you can talk about these things. The pupil will be asking you questions, but they will be also filling in exactly the same information in their workbook. Now, what we want you to do is to make sure that you know how to download the skeleton from the website onto your desktop or into the file where you're storing your skeletons, and open that skeleton in Microsoft Paint. And if you're not very techno savvy, then you need to practice doing that. It's not difficult, and you'll very quickly get used to it. It's a very, very quick process once you're used to it. And then once you've done that, is to make sure that you set up the the script, the text, so that you've got this really nice segue. Let's just write that down for you so that you can remember it. Okay, here. Segue. I selected Segue Print. Really nice little kind of font, and well recommend you to use that. It just looks good. Okay, and to practice setting up the font and the font size and positioning the cursor, you need to practice that over again. Make sure you're confident in that before you're delivering the lesson. Also, you need to make sure then that these skeletons are downloaded before you start the lesson. That's absolutely vital. Make sure they're down. You don't want to be downloading them and mucking around with them during the lesson. So it may well be worth you doing. You may need to spend 10 minutes doing that. Perhaps you'd like to download all of the skeletons in block A and carefully put them in folders going from unit 1 through to unit 17, so that you know where they are and you can quickly access them, bing bang bong, before the lesson starts. So once you've presented your information, the next phase will be the practice phase. All right, so we go presentation, practice, right the way through the course. Don't worry, the pupils will not get bored with this. They will be quite happy because you're constantly through the drill phase, keeping them speaking. All right, so let's just do that now. So we go click on back on the website, and you'll see as you move down, as I said, there is another skeleton here. So there's a bit more information to give in this text before we get onto the drill phase. But let's just have a look at the drills here. And so it says here, drill 1, we're going to go through flashcards. Pupils conjugate in the turn, and then that's say if for example you have more than one pupil in the class, then pupil 1 goes first, then pupil 2, then pupil 3, for example. But it's more than likely that you're just going to have just one pupil. So they will go through that on their own. And all you need to do is just click on that, right? And that will then automatically open, in the, on your screen. And, the pupil will then go through the conjugation of verbs. So in this case, it's yo hablo. And then you click on the screen, click, tú hablas, él habla, ella habla, etc. If you want to get rid of the outline notes, just click on that there, and that will remove them, because you may not want those visible. And you can quickly go through all of those conjugations, and you may want to go through it 2 or 3 times with the pupil. It depends on you need to gauge how they feel. So in this video, really, I'm not really explaining you how to teach. I'm just trying to explain to you how to access and download the skeletons, and then how to use the drills. So that's a typical drill. Go back again here to the top, and then you'll see here we've got again the second drill. In this case, it's similar to the first one, except that the verbs are coming in random order now. So that's sort of keeping them on their guard. And perhaps you want to get rid of that again. So the idea really is the pupil doesn't know what's coming next. Yeah, and this sort of element of surprise is very useful when delivering the online class. So they don't know what the next conjugation will be, and so they're focused on the screen and just waiting to see what will come next. Yo camino, tú hablas, ella camina, él habla, etc. And so they can work through that drill. So that's pretty much it. Just about applies to every single unit that you're going to go through in this foundation course. You're going to be required to present information and then very quickly move on to the drill phase, then possibly back to presenting more information, then back to the drill. Okay, and once you've done one unit, then you move on to the next unit. You just click back, and then we did unit 3, and then we would go on in this lesson to go on to, for example, to unit 4. Okay, I hope that's clear. And what I'd like you to do next is to watch the second video which explains how to use our preferred online lesson program, which is Zoom. Okay, we're going to use Zoom, and I'm going to show you how to use Zoom right the way from receiving the invitation to setting it up so that you maximize the learning experience of the pupil. Okay, so I'd like you to have a look at that next. So thank you for watching.